sister banned me from her child-free wedding before my birthday. But when I had my child-free wedding, she demanded I include her kids. Then my cousin revealed she planned to announce her pregnancy at my wedding. Everyone. I'm Rachel, and today I want to share with you the most unbelievable story about sibling rivalry, wedding drama, and the ultimate attempt at spotlight stealing that completely backfired. This is about how my sister banned me from her child-free wedding, then demanded special treatment at mine, all while secretly planning to announce her pregnancy at my reception to steal my thunder. By the end of this story, you'll understand why sometimes family can be your worst enemy, and why standing up for yourself is worth every uncomfortable moment that follows. Let me start by giving you some background about my relationship with my sister Claire. We're only 2 years apart, with her being 32 and me being 30, but we've never been close. Growing up, Claire was always the golden child, prettier, more popular, and seemingly more successful at everything she touched. I was the quieter, more academic sibling who lived in her shadow for most of our childhood and teenage years. As adults, our relationship became even more strained, particularly around major life events. Claire had a way of making everything about her, and if she wasn't the center of attention, she would find ways to redirect focus back to herself. She got engaged to her boyfriend Mark about 3 years ago, and from the moment she announced it, the wedding became the only thing our family could talk about for the next year and a half. Claire planned an elaborate, expensive wedding that was scheduled for early October, just 2 weeks before my birthday. She made it clear from the beginning that this would be a child-free celebration, which seemed reasonable since she and Mark didn't particularly like children and wanted an elegant, adult-only affair. However, what wasn't reasonable was how she used this policy as a weapon against family members she didn't want their daughter. About 6 months before Claire's wedding, I started dating someone new, a wonderful man named Jason who had a 7-year-old daughter named Lily from a previous relationship. Jason and I had been together for 4 months when Claire's save the dates went out, and our relationship was getting serious enough that +1s were being discussed for family events. When I asked Claire if Jason could be my +1 to the wedding, she immediately said yes and seemed happy that I was in a serious relationship. However, when I mentioned that Jason had a daughter and asked about the logistics of childcare for the weekend since the wedding was out of town, Claire's attitude completely changed. She started asking invasive questions about Jason's custody arrangement, how often Lily was with him, and whether this was a serious relationship or just a fling. The conversation took a bizarre turn when Claire started expressing concerns about Jason's priorities and whether he was really available for a relationship with someone who didn't have children. She made comments about how dating single parents was complicated and suggested that maybe I should consider whether this was really what I wanted for my future. Then came the bombshell. 2 months before her wedding, Claire called me and said she had been thinking a lot about the wedding guest list and had decided that she wanted to keep it to people who were in stable, established relationships. She said that since Jason and I had only been dating for 6 months, and since he had complications with his custody situation, she thought it would be better if I came to the wedding alone. I was shocked and hurt, but I tried to stay calm and ask for clarification. Claire explained that she was concerned about Jason potentially having to leave the wedding early if something happened with Lily, and that she didn't want her special day disrupted by custody drama. She also mentioned that several other family members had expressed concerns about Jason's suitability, though she refused to name who. When I pointed out that other cousins were bringing boyfriends and girlfriends they had been dating for similar lengths of time, Claire said those situations were different because they didn't involve children. She insisted that her decision wasn't personal against Jason, but was just about maintaining the elegant, adult atmosphere she wanted for her wedding. The more we talked, the clearer it became that Claire's real issue wasn't the child-free policy or the length of our relationship. It was the fact that I was happy and in love, and she couldn't stand not being the only one with exciting relationship news. She had been the center of attention with her engagement and wedding planning for over a year, and my new relationship was threatening to shift some focus away from her. I was devastated by Claire's decision, but I initially decided to attend the wedding alone rather than create family drama. However, Jason was understandably hurt by the exclusion, and the whole situation put a strain on our relationship. He felt like I was choosing my sister's comfort over standing up for him. And I felt caught between the man I was falling in love with and my family obligations. The situation got worse when, just 3 weeks before Claire's wedding, Jason's ex-wife decided to take an unplanned vacation and left Lily with him for the entire wedding weekend. This meant that even if I went to the wedding alone, I would be leaving Jason to handle solo parenting during a difficult time, which felt wrong and selfish. That's when I made the decision that would change everything. I called Claire and told her that I wouldn't be able to attend her wedding because Jason needed my support with Lily that weekend, and I wasn't comfortable leaving him to handle the situation alone. I explained that as his partner, I felt it was important to prioritize our relationship and show up for him when he needed me. Claire's reaction was explosive. She accused me of being selfish, of choosing a man I barely knew over my own sister's wedding, and of trying to sabotage her special day. She said I was making a huge mistake that would damage our relationship permanently, and that the family would never forgive me for missing such an important event. The phone call ended with Claire hanging up on me, and I didn't hear from her again until after the wedding. During those 3 weeks, several family members called to try to convince me to change my mind, but I stood firm in my decision. Jason was touched by my choice to support him, and it actually strengthened our relationship significantly. Claire's wedding apparently went off without a hitch, and from the photos posted on social media, it looked beautiful and elegant. However, I could tell from the forced smiles and stilted poses that there was tension in the family, and several relatives later told me that my absence was definitely noticed and discussed. After the wedding, Claire and I didn't speak for almost 2 months. The silence was broken when our mother finally intervened and insisted we have a conversation to clear the air. Claire and I met for coffee, and she made it clear that she still felt I had betrayed her by choosing Jason over her wedding. She never apologized for excluding him or acknowledged that her decision had put me in an impossible position. However, Claire did seem interested in getting to know Jason better, claiming that she had been protective of me and just wanted to make sure he was good enough. We started having family dinners again, and Claire made an effort to include Jason in family events, though there was always an underlying tension and sense that she was evaluating our relationship. Fast forward to about 8 months later, when Jason proposed to me during a romantic weekend getaway. I was over the moon and excited to start planning our wedding. Jason and I decided we wanted a small, intimate celebration with just close family and friends, and we began making plans for a spring wedding. When I announced our engagement to the family, Claire's reaction was notably lukewarm. She congratulated me, but there was something forced about her enthusiasm, and she immediately started asking detailed questions about our wedding plans, guest list, and budget. It felt like she was comparing everything to her own wedding and making sure ours wouldn't overshadow hers in any way. As we started planning our wedding, Jason and I decided that we also wanted a child-free celebration. This decision was based on several factors. We wanted an elegant evening event with dancing and cocktails. Our venue had some safety concerns with children, and frankly, we wanted to celebrate with adults who could fully participate in the party atmosphere we were planning. We knew this decision might be controversial given that several family members had young children, but we felt it was our right as the couple getting married to create the celebration we wanted. We made sure to give everyone plenty of advance notice and even offered to help arrange childcare for out-of-town relatives. When I told Claire about our child-free decision, her reaction was immediate and negative. She reminded me that she and Mark had been trying to have children since their wedding, and that they had just found out she was pregnant. She said it was unfair and hurtful to exclude children from family celebrations, and that our decision felt like a personal attack on her growing family. I was surprised by Claire's reaction, especially given that her own wedding had been child-free. But I congratulated her on the pregnancy news and tried to explain our reasoning. I told her that our decision wasn't personal and that we hoped she would understand since she had made the same choice for her own wedding. That's when Claire's true colors really showed. She said her wedding had been different because she wasn't excluding family from the celebration, just random children. She claimed that since she was now pregnant, Her unborn child was part of the family and should be considered in our planning. When I pointed out that her unborn child wouldn't actually be attending the wedding, she got angry and said I was being deliberately obtuse. Then came the demands. Claire insisted that we needed to make an exception for her children, even though she was only expecting one child who wouldn't even be born by our wedding date. She said that as my sister, she deserved special consideration, and that excluding her from our celebration because of her pregnancy was discriminatory and cruel. I tried to stay calm and explain that our child-free policy applied to everyone equally, just as hers had. I reminded her that I had respected her decision even though it had cost me my +1, and I expected the same respect for our choices. But Claire wasn't having it. She accused me of being vindictive and trying to get back at her for not inviting Jason to her wedding. The conversation escalated quickly, with Claire threatening not to attend our wedding if we didn't change our policy. She said that as the bride's sister, she should have input on major decisions, and that our child-free rule was going to exclude other family members who had children. When I stood firm in our decision, she stormed out of the restaurant where we were having lunch. Over the next few weeks, Claire launched a full campaign to get our families to pressure us into changing our minds. She called our parents, our grandparents, and several aunts and uncles to complain about our unreasonable policy. She painted herself as the victim, claiming that we were targeting her specifically because of her pregnancy. Some family members did reach out to ask if we could make exceptions, but most were understanding when we explained our reasoning and reminded them that Claire had done the same thing. A few relatives pointed out the hypocrisy of Claire's complaints, given her own child-free wedding policy. Despite the family pressure, Jason and I decided to stick to our guns. We sent out formal invitations with a clear note about the child-free celebration, and we included information about local babysitting services for those who needed them. We also planned some family-friendly activities for the weekend so that relatives with children could still participate in wedding-related events. Claire initially said she wouldn't attend the wedding, but about a month before the date, she changed her mind and RSVP'd yes. She would be about 6 months pregnant by then, and she made several comments about how difficult it would be for her to attend without being able to drink or stay out late. It felt like she was doing us a favor by coming, rather than celebrating our happiness. As the wedding date approached, I started noticing some strange behavior from Claire. She kept asking detailed questions about our reception timeline, who was giving speeches, and when various events would happen. She also started making comments about how pregnancy announcements were such joyful moments at weddings, and how exciting it would be when she and Mark had more children to share with the family. Something about her questions and comments felt off, but I was too busy with final wedding preparations to really think about it deeply. I assumed she was just excited about her pregnancy and wanted to make sure she could participate fully in our celebration despite being pregnant. Then, 3 days before our wedding, my cousin Sarah called me with some disturbing information. Sarah had been at a family barbecue where Claire was talking openly about her plans for our wedding. According to Sarah, Claire had been bragging about how she was going to make our wedding really memorable by announcing her pregnancy during the reception. Sarah said Claire had specifically planned to make the announcement during the dinner portion of the reception, right after the maid of honor's speech but before the cake cutting. She had apparently practiced what she was going to say and had even bought a special outfit that would highlight her pregnancy bump. Claire had told several family members about her plan, asking them to be ready to congratulate her and make a big fuss about the news. I was absolutely floored by this information. Claire was planning to hijack my wedding reception to make an announcement that would completely shift attention away from Jason and me on our special day. This wasn't just inconsiderate, it was a deliberate attempt to upstage us and make herself the center of attention at our own wedding. Sarah also told me that Claire had been complaining about our child-free policy to anyone who would listen, claiming that we were being spiteful and trying to exclude her because of her pregnancy. She had been painting herself as the victim while simultaneously planning to sabotage our reception. I immediately called Jason and told him what Sarah had discovered. He was as shocked and angry as I was, and we both agreed that we needed to take action to protect our wedding day. We spent the evening discussing our options and deciding how to handle Claire's planned betrayal. We considered several approaches: confronting Claire directly, asking our parents to intervene, or simply hoping that she would come to her senses and not follow through with her plan. But given Claire's history of making everything about herself and her recent behavior around our wedding, we didn't trust her to do the right thing. That's when Jason came up with a brilliant solution. He suggested that we preemptively handle the situation by making our own announcement about Claire's pregnancy during our rehearsal dinner speech. We would congratulate her publicly, acknowledge how excited the family was about the new baby, and effectively neutralize her planned surprise at the reception the next evening. At our rehearsal dinner with close family and friends, Jason and I gave a speech thanking everyone for their support and love. Toward the end of the speech, I said, "Before we celebrate tomorrow, we want to take a moment to acknowledge another exciting celebration coming to our family. We're so happy that my sister Claire and her husband Mark are expecting their first child, and we can't wait to meet our new niece or nephew in a few months." The room erupted in congratulations and excitement, with everyone turning to Claire and Mark to express their joy. Claire looked absolutely stunned. She clearly hadn't expected us to steal her thunder by announcing her news first. Mark looked confused but pleased by the attention, and the rest of the family was genuinely excited about the pregnancy news. After the dinner, Claire cornered me in the bathroom and demanded to know how I had found out about her pregnancy and why I had announced it at the rehearsal dinner. I told her calmly that several family members had mentioned it to me, and that I thought it was important to acknowledge such happy news before our wedding so that the reception could focus entirely on celebrating our marriage. Claire was furious and accused me of ruining her surprise. But I pointed out that pregnancy announcements at other people's weddings were generally considered inappropriate anyway. I told her that I was happy to celebrate her news, but that I expected our wedding reception to be focused on Jason and me, just as her reception had been focused on her and Mark. The conversation ended with Claire storming off, but the damage to her plan had been done. Everyone already knew about her pregnancy, so any attempt to make a big announcement at the reception would fall flat and potentially make her look attention-seeking and inappropriate. Our wedding day was absolutely perfect. The weather was beautiful, our ceremony was emotional and meaningful, and the reception was everything we had dreamed of. Claire attended and seemed to be enjoying herself, though she was notably subdued compared to her usual behavior at family events. During the reception dinner, there was a moment when Claire stood up as if she was going to make an announcement, but several family members immediately started talking about how wonderful it was that she was pregnant and how excited they were about the baby. She sat back down without saying anything, and I could tell she realized that her planned surprise had been completely neutralized. The rest of the reception went off without a hitch. We had amazing speeches from our wedding party, danced until late into the night, and felt completely surrounded by love and support from the people who mattered most to us. Most importantly, Jason and I were able to enjoy our special day without worrying about family drama or spotlight-stealing. The aftermath of our wedding was interesting. Several family members privately told us that they had heard about Claire's planned announcement and were relieved that we had handled it so smoothly. A few relatives admitted that they had been uncomfortable with Claire's behavior throughout our engagement and were glad to see us stand up for ourselves. Claire herself was subdued in the weeks following our wedding. She seemed to realize that her plan had backfired and that her attempt to upstage us had been unsuccessful. She also seemed to understand that the family had noticed her behavior and wasn't entirely supportive of her tactics. Our relationship with Claire improved somewhat after our wedding, though there's still an underlying tension and understanding that she can't be trusted to behave appropriately at important events. She gave birth to a healthy baby boy a few months later, and we were genuinely happy for her and Mark, though we made sure to keep our boundaries clear about family gatherings and celebrations. Looking back on the whole experience, I'm proud of how Jason and I handled Claire's attempted sabotage. We could have confronted her directly or caused a public scene, but instead we found a way to protect our wedding day while still acknowledging her news in an appropriate setting. We showed that we could be the bigger people while still standing up for ourselves. The experience also taught me valuable lessons about family dynamics and the importance of setting boundaries. Claire's behavior throughout our engagement and wedding planning showed me that she was willing to prioritize her own need for attention over my happiness, even on my wedding day. That was painful to realize, but it helped me understand that I needed to protect myself from her toxic behavior. I also learned that standing up for yourself doesn't always require confrontation or drama. Sometimes the most effective response is to quietly outmaneuver someone who's trying to hurt you while still maintaining your dignity and taking the high road. By announcing Claire's pregnancy at our rehearsal dinner, we protected our wedding reception while still celebrating her news. Appropriately. The situation with Claire also strengthened my relationship with Jason and showed me that we could work together as a team to handle family challenges. His suggestion to preemptively announce the pregnancy was brilliant, and his support throughout the entire ordeal meant everything to me. It proved that we could face difficult situations together and come out stronger. Our marriage has been wonderful, and we've built strong relationships with the family members who truly support us. We've learned to keep our distance from people who try to create drama or steal attention from important moments. And we've become much better at setting boundaries and protecting our peace. As for Claire, she's still the same person she always was, someone who needs to be the center of attention and will go to great lengths to ensure that happens. But now I understand her patterns and motivations, and I'm better equipped to protect myself and my family from her manipulative behavior. If there's one thing I want people to take from this story, it's that you don't have to accept toxic behavior from family members just because they're related to you. You have the right to protect your important moments and celebrations from people who would sabotage them for their own gain. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is set firm boundaries and stick to them, even when it's uncomfortable or causes family tension. Your wedding day is one of the most important days of your life, and you deserve to celebrate it without worrying about family members who might try to upstage you or create drama. Don't be afraid to take action to protect your special moments. You'll be glad you did when you're looking back on memories that are truly focused on your happiness rather than someone else's need for attention.